crime, cults, Jim Jones, as discussed by IGNACIO Esteban in his book, Cults Exposed. Jim Jones, cult leader, convinced over 900 people to murder each other and commit mass suicide. Now on True Crime. Welcome to another episode of William Steele True Crime, and my special guest, IGNACIO Esteban, retired agent with ATF, recently retired, author of 62, count them, 62 books. How does he do it? He has a book telling you how he did it. Check it out. All the book links are going to be in the description. We are here today to talk about a case just about everybody's heard of. When they say, don't drink the Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid doesn't like their name used in this context, but it was, in fact, what was used. We'll call it a punch drink, I guess. Jim Jones. Jim Jones was basically a cultist type leader who took his followers down to, I believe, Central America. IGNACIO wrote a book about it. IGNACIO, welcome back to the show.
Tell us
about your book and your knowledge of this guy, Jim Jones, and what, cautionary tale. What can people look out for?
Yeah, no, it's an unbelievable story, especially the younger generation may not know a lot who this guy, Jim Jones. Yeah, it wasn't Kool-Aid. I think it was with Value Aid or something. It wasn't Kool-Aid at all, but everybody adapted to Kool-Aid.
Okay. Excuse me, Kool-Aid. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. But that's a famous term that coined out of it because of the and it wasn't. And I'll give your audience a little background. It was a mass massacre. It wasn't suicide because a lot of people, when you have gunmen around you, his brigade squad, after he just assassinated a congressman that was out there investigating them with his entourage, they had injections. A lot of people were injected. They forced their kids and babies to take the cyanide. This pretty much flavored cyanide is what they did. It's horrible. And I'm going to take a story here. If you haven't seen the video, if you haven't seen if you haven't heard the death tape of Jim Jones, I mean, he records the whole thing. I don't know if you ever heard the death tape that he has there, that he left there. Some of the stuff he's telling his wife, because his wife is pushing back because they don't want to kill their grandchildren.
Right.
They don't want to kill their older kids and the other family, but he wants to start with the killed and he says these things as suicidal revolution. The world will know of us because he's angry. So let me give you, how did he get to Jonestown, Guyana, on the verge of committing over 900, I call mass murder. It was the worst mass shooting of massacre of Americans until 9/11.
He was a small-time pastor, I believe. Was it San Francisco, a black church?
Ministry. I mean, I wouldn't even call him that, but I'm gonna explain what I think he is. And he used religion for what his gain was. And a lot of people, remember, are the devil in hiding. Mm-hmm. Don't ever forget that. They're a wolf in sheep's clothing. And he definitely fits that, what he did to these people. So he was born in absolute abject poverty in Indiana, in Lynn, Indiana. He's a child of a depression, the Great Depression in the 20s. His father was a World War I veteran who suffered a lot of injuries from the war and was very disabled. Couldn't really provide for his family. Right? And they would lose their home, couldn't pay their mortgage. So the families got together and got him a shack out there in a rural area with no plumbing and no running water. So I think he had one pair of clothes, if that. He was known to be naked growing up, going through Lynn, Indiana, through the streets of Indiana and downtown area. And a lot of people will try to chip in. So he goes from that life to being a very rich man. Very similar to what the cartels do, right? With the Chapos and the other people who come from abject poverty also and become these billionaires. He doesn't become a billionaire, but he will become a very, very rich man using religion. He finds religion interesting, ministry, preaching as a way out. That's the way I see it. He sees a way out at a young age, and he embraces it, and he feels like he can do something with it, and he grows with it, and he grows with it at all. He also then starts reading a lot. He's an avid reader, and he starts reading books from Hitler. Because, of course, it's become popular in World War II. Who is this guy? Adolf Hitler, Stalin. He becomes very infatuated with strong hands, strong tyrants. This will become important rulers. And he also takes on, he believes that communism, socialism, Marxism, Karl Marx, he reads the Communist Manifesto, Leninism, that this is something that could maybe apply later in life. So remember what he's trying to create. He will eventually try to create this communist utopia in Jonestown, Guyana, which will backfire big time. So he ends up getting frustrated in Indiana because to him it's full of anti-segregationists, and he wants his church to be very integrated, and he wants to integrate different races together at the churches. But a lot at that time in the 40s and 50s, it was frowned upon, especially in the Midwest. Deep South, forget it. Midwest was difficult. So he ends up moving his congregation and the People's Temple out there in the San Francisco area.
Right.
Very liberal, right? He can do a lot of things, and it feeds into what he is becoming, which is a socialist communist. He's really a hardcore communist, what he is already. So because he's already believed in that, he likes the what he even adapts a lot of people. He creates a rainbow family. He adapted. He was the first couple to adapt a black boy in Indiana, and then he adapts a Korean children in California. So he creates this, which is great. If it would have ended his life there, I think he would have been considered a hero, right? But it turns badly. It turns really badly. His People's Temple, he becomes very controlling. He takes advantage. You have to turn over your income. So this is where things change. It's predominantly disenfranchised people, a lot of African Americans, a lot of blacks. They're part of his congregation, and he manipulates, and he starts this mind control, how to control people. He starts being investigated, FBI and IRS, because a lot of people don't see it as a church. They see him more as a business, what he's trying to do, and the way he starts to control people. He gets to become very, very paranoid. He thinks originally he wanted to go years earlier, before the 70s. He thought the United States Soviet Union would be a nuclear war. Yeah, so Jim Jones realizes he can't really do what he wants in Indiana, moves the People's Temple to San Francisco. It's a lot more liberal, and he can integrate the church. Like I said, if it would have ended there, I think he would have been known as a hero for the civil rights movement, trying to integrate churches, businesses, policing, other industries to more integrate between different, the different races.
Right.
But it goes a different way. It doesn't end that way. He gets very greedy. He abuses. He takes advantage. These are people who are disenfranchised, disadvantaged. Most of them are African Americans. They're blacks, and he uses religion because allegedly he confides with his wife that he sees the socialist communist utopia as a way to neutralize and equalize everything, but to his advantage. So he kind of likes the Stalinist type approach, right? He kind of wants to be like another Fidel Castro, another Stalin. He wants the people all be equal, the same.
But him to be the king.
But he's the king. And he would be definitely the king in Jonestown. There's no way around it. And years earlier, so he would move everybody, or try to, back in the late 70s. And this started a process back in 76, 77. But he would try, years earlier, he would go to Brazil and see if he could do the same thing. What worked in Guyana was, it used to be a British colony, English speaking, right? And they also embraced a socialist government soon thereafter. So it all worked nicely for him. It was like a Cuba, but it was English speaking. So that worked out for him to be able to set everything there, because he was becoming very paranoid, extremely paranoid. He thought the FBI was on him for alleged abuses that were going on his so-called church. IRS also for his so-called tax-exempt status, for he shouldn't have because of what he was doing. So all these factors led in for him to go down south and bring his congregation to Guyana. It's a very small country in South America, right there in the northeast side of the continent, next to Brazil and Venezuela. So it's out there. He moves them out, and a lot of issues start developing in Jonestown. First of all, the living conditions are not up to par. The housing standards, what's out there. Of course, he has the best food. Allegedly, allegations were he was starving these people out there, working them 12 hours days. I mean, really bad things that were going up there to them. So it's very, very sad situation. There's a congressman, because a lot of these people are from this area. Remember, he was in San Francisco. Even though the church has spread out, his constituents, And a lot of defectors are making strong allegations who have somehow escaped, because once you're in there, Jones doesn't want you leaving. Right. It's one of those things. And he makes it very difficult for people to leave. Defectors will write affidavits saying, hey, this is what we witnessed, what we experienced. He would have, if you were not on board or complaining what was going on, they would do things to you in the medical camp, in the medical unit, right? They would inject you with coma-inducing medication. Wow. They would put you in hot boxes under the ground to punish you for doing that.
I didn't know that.
They had, this is all in the affidavits. They had people, defectors who left, who swore to this. They would have these huge boa constrictors, the snakes out there, wrap around people's necks to torture like they had died because of that. I mean, they would do really sadistic things to keep them. These people were brainwashed, controlled, and he would go into some really strict mind control, saying how bad America was, watching them watch videos of how great socialism, communism was, and how America was pretty much an evil empire that needs to be brought down. So he really turned his country that provide for him. He turned against it, went out there and brought all these Americans with him. It was almost 1,000 people that went down. His congregation at its highest was over 2,500 throughout the state of California and other places. He brought about 1,000 people down there.
I know when he fled, these investigations that were starting to get on his tail, that some of the family members made so many complaints. I guess you said the affidavits that a congressman decided to fly down there and check into this and what happened there.
Yeah, strong allegations out there. He also read an article from a local paper that fed on that, and he was like, you know what, I want to do something else in there. He was a go-getter. His name was Leo Ryan. Leo Ryan. He was a congressman out there, the 11th Circuit out of 11th District in California, near San Francisco area. And a lot of his constituents were from there, and the families were concerned. They were reaching out to him saying, hey, there's allegations, bad things are happening to our family. They can't leave. They're being forced there. They're losing they have no income. They're being overworked. They're being starved. They're being abused. Women will be, systematically raped. Some men will be systematically raped. I mean, there were a lot of things that were going wrong with what was going on this so-called, communist utopia that Jim Jones, it wasn't anything like that. It was his tyranny controlling his people. Right. So he wants to start a fact-affected mission, and type of that he was a U.S. Navy veteran from the Second World War, a go-getter, very proactive. This guy Leo Ryan, right? He would even where he would go to, well, let's say baby seals were being thumped. He would
break it up.
He wanted to bring other congressmen with him.
You broke up.
He wanted to bring other men with him.
Okay, so Leo Ryan was a very active congressman, helping people.
He was a go-getter. He was a World War II veteran, right, from Navy. He wanted to go out there. He even wanted to bring in, at the time, Dan Quayle, who was a representative, go with him.
Right.
But Dan Quayle couldn't make it. Other local representatives out there couldn't make it. It was just him. Dangerous situation.
He went with an assistant, Jackie. I forget her last name.
Yeah. He went with an entourage. He went with NBC News reporters, journalists,
right.
Washington Post.
Yep.
He thought, I have this huge entourage. I think I should be okay. He's not going to do anything stupid, right? I got NBC News with me. This guy's a famous journalist. He brought with him, right? He brought people at the time who were well-known, famous. Washington Post is coming with me. I mean, he's not going to do anything stupid like that, right? Unfortunately, they were dead wrong. Dead wrong. He was that reckless and that stupid, and he had that apocalyptic mentality already. Because another thing the defectors would talk about in the affidavits, that he would have white night drills. White night drills with that. He said that the military or the authorities are coming, and he would be shooting. He would have his Red Brigade, I call them Goon Squad, shooting above these people, terrorizing them for hours, scaring them. And this is what we'll do. And if they do show up, he had them doing drills of taking the Kool-Aid, but without the cyanide, to see if they would take it. And he drilled into them. Every time they come, this is what we're going to do. And he did that for months, preparing for this move. And he was going to do it. So they show up.
I remember some of the footage where when he was talking to them, he was trying to control the narrative and pass the mic to maybe people that were supportive, but then there was also people there that were trapped there passing notes to the congressman and his staff.
I'll get you. Yeah, if you haven't seen those videos, folks, you got to see the videos go on there. These are the last acts that a lot of these journalists do before they're killed by the Red Brigade, which is Jones's goon squad, which I call them. So they fly into Georgetown, which is the capital, Guyana. Then they have to take a small small helicopter, aircraft to Jonestown, a little strip there in the middle of nowhere in the jungle. It's about 2 or 3 hours away from Georgetown, the capital. Once they get there, he meets with people, and it seems like they're all happy because I look at the video myself. I see what the conversations are going on that some people want, but little by little, you're right. People start passing notes. They first pass to journalists who are out there. They say, we want to get out. We want to go with you. There's a lot of things going bad out here. So they start interviewing people, and Jim Jones starts getting upset. And he doesn't like what's being said. And he said, okay, if people want to leave, they can leave. But you can see the video. There's a ruckus going on. People are screaming, families being divided, and you can tell it's really getting to them. About, I think, 15, 20 people joined the entourage to leave. And there was an assassination attempt there at the compound with a guy with a knife came at the congressman and almost killed him right there.
Wow.
He swung at him. They stopped him. They separate him. And the journalist said, we got to leave now. This thing's about to get out of control. They knew things were getting bad. These guys are armed. So I'll talk about things, obviously hindsight's 2020. But you knew from the defectors that these guys had weapons. You knew these guys were dangerous. You come unarmed. You don't have anybody from the military with you. You don't have the State Department bring anybody with you. That's acting for a bad situation for yourselves, knowing how his state of mind, he's already ultra paranoid out there. He has all the cyanide. He's been doing his white knight drills. I think it was a bad decision to provoke a crazy man like that.
I would think even though that government maybe wasn't on the same page with us, they might have supplied some sort of a brigade of military of their own just as an escort to make sure nothing happened.
I personally, if I can't bring any guns with me, knowing he is well armed and he's thinking about apocalyptic scenarios, right? I'm definitely not going in there in that situation. And I don't blame Dan Quayle and some of the other guys for not going. I think they thought it was too dangerous.
What's your title of the book on this? We're going to show the book on the screen and have link in the description. So I know you
Drinking the Kool-Aid, Jim Jones' Suicidal Revolution, Crazy Suicidal Revolution. Good read. So I'll get right to the end real quick here so they know they haven't seen it. At the end, they're leaving with the people. They're going to the planes. He sends his squad out there, and the video's out there. You can see the last thing the cameraman shoots is these guys opening up on them. He gets killed there. You see them firing at them. The congressman gets 7 shots and 1 in the face. His assistant gets shot 5, 6 times. She survives only by playing dead. She survives for 24 hours on that tarmac before the military finally gets her playing dead. Some able to escape outside to the jungles. They report back, hey, listen, some got away. And that's when Jim Jones says, it ends now because they're going to come and end this now. Right. And that's where he starts them taking the Kool-Aid, and it's the cyanide. And over 900 people, if they don't take it, they get injected. And then that's when they find the bodies a day later. If you haven't seen the video, it's heartbreaking. It's horrible. It is what happens when a cult mentality takes over. People give up their lives. They get brainwashed. They get controlled. Nothing good happens when people take control of your lives. And we've seen it in over different governments throughout the fascism to communism to religion extremism. It's all bad. When people give up their ability to think and reason and let someone else take care of them, when you become a pet, nothing good happens when someone controls you like that. And you're their pet.
I'd like to do a show with you about cults because I was they attempted to indoctrinate me to what I call a cult. And, it was part of the show and all that, and I'm not going to say the name of their religion on the screen right now, but I feel like they did everything that had the hallmarks of a cult, which was isolate me to where I could only deal with them. I didn't have a ride. I couldn't go anywhere without them. I couldn't go to any other church but their church. I couldn't eat what I wanted to eat except for stuff according to their religion's dietary requirements. I couldn't have internet. I couldn't have TV. And I write books. That's what I do out of prison. So when I looked up like the hallmarks of a cult and the indoctrination process, there's isolation, there's love bombing, we're the only ones that care about you and have the solution for your problem. And here it is in our in our material from our church, you know, I look back and I'm like, these mother effers, they try to go, you know, get me, and I'm street smart, so I know inherently there's some shady stuff going on here. But until I looked up indoctrination to a cult, I didn't realize that the way they went about it with me, especially, fit every last indoctrination point. Isolation, love bombing. We have the only solution for you.
Do they want your money too?
Yep. Oh, yeah. I can only tithe to their church. You know, it was mandatory to tithe to their church, you know, but I wanted to go to a non-denominational church. I couldn't do that. Yeah, so let's not get into that now, but let's examine cults one day if you want to do some research.
So this is a very good example right here. You want a classic textbook example? Jim Jones right here. And obviously I did one on Scientology. I hope to talk to you about that one too. That's another example that's going on now also. And you can also put David Koresh, the Branch Davidians out of Waco. The same thing. All these guys, and there's so many out there. So many, doesn't stop.
As an ATF retired guy, are you ever going to do a more comprehensive book that really gets deep into the whole Waco thing? Or
I might do that. I was going to do it through the angle of Timothy McVeigh, because that's what inspired him to do Oklahoma. Was he was on the scene during the standoff at Waco, and he did not like it, what he saw there. And this 2 years later, on the anniversary, is when he does the Oklahoma bombing.
So there was a lot of stuff. There was criticism on both agencies. I think ATF and FBI took heat because, you know, they said there was many opportunities to take him on the road when he was out jogging, and they didn't take those opportunities.
I think we've learned a lot from Waco and but at the same time, they had a search warrant. Why don't I just comply, right? They had a legal search warrant. Why are you having your guys open fire? Just like this goon guy did with the Red Brigade. Why are you killing? There's no difference what David Koresh did and what Jim Jones did. I mean, the guy killed those guys that were reporting the news, right? NBC News. I mean, he wiped out the whole entourage, right? And he had the congressman executed. Those 4 agents that were murdered for the search warrant there, it's unacceptable. We just had that 30-year anniversary pass of their death. And I posted on my Facebook page. It's these fanatics. That's what you can say. They're fanatics. They're crazies. And he also abused. He molested, right? These children, right? He could only have sex with the women. Men there couldn't have sex with their own wives, right? You know, Jim Jones was doing some weird stuff like that too.
Yeah, and these cults, you know, they'll indoctrinate and go after the most vulnerable in society, disenfranchise the people who already believe it's a racist world and everybody's out to get them. And you know, even though there is still a lot of racism going on, you know, not everybody's that way. Just because I'm white doesn't mean you're racist. And you know, you have to judge somebody by the content of their character, the way Martin Luther King said. All right, so. Everybody, please check out Ignacio's book about the Jim Jones.
Yeah, drinking the Kool-Aid, and it's also that's the individual one, but it's also in the book about tyrants and killers, the worst tyrants and killers of the 21st century, and what's going on. It's a good read there, so you can get a comprehensive book. That's $9.99, less than $10, and you'll get about 17 good short reads in there. Good reads about a series of different tyrants. You know, from Nicolas Maduro to Xi Jinping to Putin to the DC snipers, everything with these guys, you know, everything. So check it out, and it should be coming out hopefully within a month or two on Audible. Another book on Audible, please.
Got it. Hey, thank you once again, Ignacio.
Thank you.
Retired ATF. Thank you. Retired ATF agent, prolific writer. Thank you for joining us again. Please hit like and subscribe. Check out William Steele True Crime Podcast. Share this interview around because you get the information out about Ignacio's books. Very few people retire from federal law enforcement and write the type of insightful books that this man has written, and he puts it all out there. So he's prolific in his writing, and he's very sincere. He's got a good heart. I got to know him. You know, he's become a friend and a mentor of sorts. You know, me with my criminal background, having served over 18 years in prison for nonviolent crimes, it means a lot to me to have a guest like Ignacio on the show.
And Bill, your show, it's very informative, great content. Keep it up, man. I think we enjoy it, and it's very informative. So we'll enjoy watching your show.
I appreciate it. Thank you for joining us. Please hit like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.
All right, man.